Imagine waking up not in your bed, but on the floor of a meticulously ordered room. Every book on the shelf is perfectly aligned, spine out, organized not by author or genre, but by the fading color of its cover, creating a gradient from deep indigo to bone white. It was not built by an enemy who broke down your doors. To label it so is to insult the sheer horrifying intelligence of the mechanism at play. It is a philosophical crisis, masquerading as a personal failing. It's a hijack of the soul. Who are you really, when your actions are no longer an extension of your intent? When your own hands move to betray the commands of your conscious mind, who is the true master? Are you the haunted house, or are you the ghost? Is true freedom the power to get what you want? Or is it the power to want what is good for you, even when it feels like tearing yourself into? We are sold a comforting lie that we are the captains of our ship, the masters of our fate. But what happens when you awaken to find a mutineer at the helm, charting a course for a beautiful sun-drenched reef, promising paradise all the way to the jagged rocks? It was constructed with the very tools of your own salvation. It is a fundamental schism in the self, a ghost in the machine of your own consciousness. It whispers that the cage is, in fact, a sanctuary, that the ritualistic order is peace, that the surrender is, in its own way, a form of control. And the most terrifying part is that it's starting to make sense. To understand this silent struggle, we cannot simply look at the cage. We must examine the very nature of the ghost that built it. We must dig into the earth beneath the foundation and study the psychological bedrock. Each bar was forged from a promise you made to yourself. Just this once, I can handle it. I need this to get through the day. Your willpower, the very force you believe is meant to set you free, has become the chief architect of your imprisonment. You fight it with strength, but the struggle is its nourishment. You resist with logic, but it speaks the language of your deepest, most illogical needs. It is a battle against a phantom who knows every secret corridor of your mind because it helped carve them. How do you wage war against yourself and expect to win? When you punch a mirror, which reflection truly shatters, the dust motes dance in a single clean sunbeam, illuminating a floor so polished you can see the distorted reflection of your own bewildered face. There is a profound silence here, the kind that feels heavier than sound. This silent architect of your life, it's not a stranger. It has your voice, your hands, your desires. It loves what you love, but with a terrifying, singular focus. It wants comfort. It wants release. It wants the quiet hum of oblivion that comes after the screaming need is finally fed. And it is a master craftsman. It builds a life for you, a functional, presentable cage, and from the outside, no one sees the bars. They see the promotions you earn, the stable relationships you maintain, the way you laugh at all the right moments. They see the clean room. They don't see the silent, nightly struggle that precedes the dawn, the frantic, desperate negotiation with a ghost who has already decided the outcome. They don't see you on your hands and knees, arranging the world just so, a ritual to appease a god of your own making. Here lies the great and terrible paradox of the cage you find yourself in. This struggle is not a simple question of vice or virtue, of strength or weakness. This force, this silent partner in your existence, is more than a habit. That ghost you live with, the silent architect of your compulsions. It is not an invader. It is a native. Itwas was born in the abyssal silence that echoes within every human soul. Standing on the precipice of infinite choice, you are paralyzed. You can do anything. You can be anyone. The shadow self is the repository of everything you have disowned about yourself. Your anger, your shame, your forbidden desires, your vulnerability. It is the dark twin that walks behind you. You have traded the dizziness of freedom for the certainty of a cage. You have chosen a destructive purpose over no purpose at all. This is the hidden architecture of the problem. It is not a chemical hook or a moral failing. It is a philosophical bargain, spiritual contract signed in a moment of existential terror. But this bargain is a lie. The relief it offers is a loan taken at an astronomical interest rate. The void it promises to fill it does not fill it. It only excavates it, digging it deeper and wider with every ritual, every surrender. You are now beholden to the very thing you enlisted to save you. And this bargain doesn't just stay in the realm of philosophy, it begins to actively, secretly and systematically rewrite the very fabric of your reality. It warps your perception, corrupts your thoughts, and casts an invisible net over your entire world. It's creating consequences you cannot even begin to see until it is far. Far too late, society, your upbringing, your own ego, they have taught you to repress this shadow, to pretend it doesn't exist. But it cannot be destroyed. The more you ignore it, the more it seethes in the basement of your psyche, growing stronger, waiting for a moment of weakness to seize control, and it finds its voice in your addiction. The obsession becomes the shadow's language, a way for it to finally act out, to get the attention it craves. The meticulous, ordered room from your waking nightmare? That is your conscious ego, desperately trying to maintain a facade of control while the shadow runs rampant in the night. You are not fighting an external enemy, you are at war with a disowned part of yourself, part that screams for integration, not annihilation. To fight the shadow is to fight a civil war destined for mutual destruction. But this boundless potential is not a gift, it's a crushing burden. His characters are not driven by rational self-interest. They are driven by a deep, paradoxical need to assert their will, even if it leads to their own ruin. In a world that feels increasingly logical, sterile, and meaningless, the act of self-destruction can feel like the last bastion of true freedom. To choose one path is to kill every other possibility. To create your own meaning is to accept the terrifying responsibility that there is no inherent meaning to be found. And so, in this dizzying, nauseating freedom, the mind seeks an anchor, craves a reduction of possibilities. Addiction offers a perverse form of salvation from this dizziness. It says, you don't have to choose anymore. I have chosen for you. The purpose is simple and clear: acquire and consume. The daily anxiety of forging an identity is replaced by the singular monastic devotion to the ritual. The infinite, terrifying expanse of freedom is collapsed into a straight, narrow, predictable line. It is a terrible path, yes, but at least it is a path. It feels like relief. It feels like purpose. It is the willing sacrifice of your freedom to escape the terror of being free. The 17th century philosopher Blaise Pascal wrote that all of humanity's problems stem from our inability to sit quietly in a room alone. This wasn't a complaint about restlessness. It was a profound diagnosis of the human condition. In true silence, when the noise of the world fades away, you are left with nothing but the deafening hum of your own consciousness. And in that hum, you hear the terrifying questions. Is this all there is? What is the point of this brief flickering existence? You are confronted with the raw, untamed wilderness of your own being, and the instinct, the ancient, primal instinct, is to run. To find a distraction so loud, so all-consuming, that it drowns out the silence. This is the primordial soil in which the seeds of your obsession are sown. This terror of the void was what the Danish philosopher Søren Kierkegaard called the dizziness of freedom. This is where we must turn to the great psychologist Carl Jung, who would not call this force a monster, but a shadow. The great Russian novelist Fyodor Dostoevsky understood this impulse better than anyone. So you see, the pact is made. You have hired your shadow to save you from the silence. The bargain you've struck with your shadow cannot survive in the harsh light of objective reality, and so it does not try. Instead, it begins the slow, methodical process of building you a new one. This is the ultimate unseen consequence, the silent terraforming of your own mind. You become the victim of 1,000 cognitive biases, each one a thread in the invisible net that now covers your world. The pain of holding two opposing ideas. I am a good, intelligent person, and I am actively destroying myself for a fleeting sensation is unbearable. To resolve this psychic friction, the mind must change one of the ideas. And it is always, always easier to change the idea than to change the behavior. So, the addictions propaganda department goes to work. It's not that bad, it whispers. You've earned this. They are the ones with the problem for not understanding what you're going through. It subtly reframes your values, edits your moral code, and recasts you from the protagonist of your own life story into the misunderstood victim. It makes you a willing accomplice in your own gaslighting, until the cage it built begins to feel, inexplicably, like home. Confirmation bias becomes your new religion. Your mind becomes a tireless detective, searching only for evidence that supports the addiction's necessity. You live in a culture that worships at the altar of the quick fix. A society that medicates discomfort, sells happiness in a bottle or a box, and tells you that the answer to any inner turmoil is to consume something new. Your private struggle is simply the endgame of a massive public conditioning program. The whispers of your addiction sound hauntingly familiar because you hear their echoes everywhere in advertisements, in media, in the hollow pursuit of endless, empty growth. The unseen consequence, then, is not merely the loss of your health, your money, or your relationships. It is the slow, systematic erasure of you. Your identity, your free will, your very perception of reality is being hollowed out and replaced with a simple, brutal operating system whose only function is to perpetuate itself. You are becoming a ghost in your own life, and the trap is so perfectly constructed, so deeply embedded in your own mind and the world around you, that escape now feels truly impossible. How can you break free from a prison when you can no longer trust your own mind to even see the bars? You vividly recall the one time it helped you relax before a big presentation, while conveniently archiving the 100 times it dismantled your relationships and corroded your health. You see others who indulge and think it's normal, while ignoring the vast majority who live without it. Your perception is no longer a window onto the world. It is a curated gallery, where every exhibit is designed to prove the righteousness of your captor. It starts deep in the wetware of your brain, a process that neurologists call neuroplasticity. Your brain is not a static organ. It is a dynamic landscape of neural pathways, constantly being reshaped by your thoughts and experiences. When you first give in to the ritual, you carve a tiny footpath in this landscape. The next time, the path is a little wider, a little easier to travel. With each repetition, the path becomes a road, then a highway, then a magnetic super trench that pulls all thought and energy toward it. Meanwhile, the other paths, the ones that led to genuine connection, to creative joy, to long-term fulfillment, they begin to overgrow with weeds. Your brain, in its relentless efficiency, begins to prune these lesser-used connections. The world of vibrant color and infinite destinations slowly fades into a grayscale map with a single, glaringly obvious road to a single, inevitable destination. This is not just a metaphor, it is a neurological cootie. The addiction hijacks your brain's most ancient and powerful survival mechanism, the reward system. This system, driven by chemicals like dopamine, was designed to be a compass, guiding you toward things that ensure your survival: food, connection, discovery. But the addiction learns how to counterfeit the signal. It provides a surge of reward so immense, so far beyond the scale of natural pleasure, that it shatters the compass. With the hardware of your brain reconfigured, the addiction then installs its own software, weaponizing the very glitches in human cognition to maintain its rule. When moments of clarity pierce through the fog, when the devastating truth of your situation becomes undeniable, another defense mechanism kicks in: cognitive dissonance. This internal reality is then reflected and amplified by the world outside. So how do you escape a prison when your own mind is the warden and your own thoughts are the bars? This is the radical, revolutionary shift in perspective that changes everything. You must stop being the warrior and become the watcher, the scientist, the detached observer. Your addiction, this shadow self, is not an all-powerful god. It is a predictable machine, a series of circuits that fire in a specific, observable pattern. When the urge arises, your task is no longer to vanquish it, but to study it, to get curious. Instead of being swept up in the hurricane of panic and desire, you take a metaphorical step back and you observe. Ah, there it is again. It's the tightening in my chest. It's the familiar script of justification starting to run in my head. The sudden rewriting of priorities. Fascinating. In this simple act of observation, you achieve the impossible. You create a space between the stimulus and your response. You introduce a moment of clear air. For the first time, you are no longer fused with the urge. You are the consciousness that is aware of the urge. And in that space, in that awareness, lies the entirety of your power. The ancient Stoic philosophers knew this 2,000 years ago. Epictetus, a man born a slave who became one of history's most influential thinkers, taught a simple, profound truth. We are not disturbed by things, not as a soft wellness, but as a disciplined training of the mind. It is the practice of sitting in that quiet room Pascal spoke of, and not running. It is the training of your attention to rest in the present moment, to watch the contents of your consciousness, feelings. It is as if they were clouds passing in the vast sky of your mind. You don't engage them, you don't fight them, you don't judge them, you simply notice them. It's the urge for your addiction appears on the horizon like a dark storm cloud. You watch it approach. You feel the temperature drop. You feel the wind of anxiety on your skin. But you are not the cloud, you are the sky. You have the capacity to hold the storm without becoming it. And as you watch with this detached, patient curiosity, you discover the most liberating truth of all: the storm passes. The urge, no matter how powerful, is temporary. It crests like a wave, and then it recedes. It is not a permanent state, but a transient event. But by the views we take of them, the raw physical sensation of an urge, the chemical flicker in your brain, is in itself meaningless. It is neutral. It has no inherent power over you. It is your judgment of the sensation that gives it life. It is your thought, "I cannot bear this," that creates the suffering. It is your belief, "I need this to be okay," that creates the frantic desperation. The entire terrifying emotional weight of the experience is something you are adding to it. To break free is to learn how to let the raw sensation exist without attaching the story of your own damnation to it. You don't have to kill the dragon, you just have to stop believing it's real. This ancient wisdom finds its modern practice in the art of mindfulness. This discovery is the key that unlocks the cage. You realize the prison was never a physical place, but a belief in your own powerlessness. The bars were not made of steel, but of unexamined thoughts and panicked reactions. By ceasing the fight, you stop energizing the machine. By refusing to obey the neurological command, you begin the slow, deliberate process of rewiring your brain. The superhighway of addiction, starved of traffic, begins to crack and fade. The overgrown footpaths of joy and connection, now gently trod, begin to clear. You are not overpowering the addiction with force, you are rendering it obsolete through wisdom. You are not a soldier winning a war, you are the prisoner who finally realizes the door was never locked, that he was holding it shut with his own two hands. You have stopped pushing, but simply stepping out of the cage is not the end. It is a new beginning. And what you find on the other side, the final, deepest realization of this entire journey, will redefine not only your freedom, but the very nature of reality itself. You have stepped out of the cage. The air of freedom is sharp and clean in your lungs. The constant grinding noise of the struggle has faded into a profound and unfamiliar silence. In this silence, a new and unsettling question arises. It was about what it promised release from the crushing weight of the self, a moment of peace in the relentless storm of thought. Instead, you learn the art of spiritual alchemy. You take this powerful, focused, once destructive force, and you give it a new direction. We discover that the void you were so terrified of is not empty, it is pregnant. It is the silent, fertile ground from which all things are born. It is the canvas upon which you can now paint a new reality. You are no longer the haunted prisoner of the clean room, trapped in a ritual you don't understand. You are the architect. You see the blueprints of your own consciousness. You understand how the foundation was laid, how the walls were erected, and most importantly, you now hold the tools to renovate, to redesign, to build something magnificent upon the ruins of your old prison. The architect in your mind is always building. It never stops. You transmute the lead of obsession into the gold of purpose. The same laser focus that was once used to seek out your next fix is now channeled into your work. Your art, your relationships, your spiritual practice. You give your shadow a new constructive job. You integrate it. You bring it out of the basement and into the light, where its immense power can be used to build rather than destroy. You learn that the opposite of addiction is not, as is commonly believed, sobriety. The opposite of addiction is connection. True, deep, authentic connection. Connection to your own soul. Connection to the people around you. Connection to a world that is no longer a source of threat, but a field of wonder. A feeling of wholeness, of connection, of transcendence. You were craving oblivion because you were craving an escape from the small, frightened ego that chattered endlessly in your skull. You were, in the most profound sense, a seeker. You were looking for God, for nirvana, for existential relief, but you were looking for it in a poisoned well. Your addiction, then, was not a moral failing. It was a navigation error of the soul. It was the correct impulse to seek transcendence, aimed at the wrong target. And this changes everything. Your struggle is no longer a story of shame. It becomes a story of a quest, a violent, painful, and costly quest. Yes, but a quest nonetheless. Your addiction was a corrupted spiritual longing. The desperate search for the substance or the behavior was never about the thing itself. It was your teacher. It was a merciless, brutal Zen master that slapped you awake. It was the only force in your life powerful enough to drag you to the absolute edge of your being and force you to confront the fundamental questions of existence. It forced you to learn the architecture of your own mind, the nature of thought, the mechanics of desire. It burned away every lie you told yourself, every comfortable illusion, until only the raw, authentic truth of your condition remained. The years you believe you lost to your addiction were not lost. They were spent in the harshest, most demanding school in the universe. Your recovery is not a return to who you were before. It is a graduation. The pain was not a punishment, it was the tuition. This is the ultimate paradigm shift. The shadow you fought, the architect of your prison, it was never an enemy to be vanquished. So what do you do with the immense energy that once fueled this obsession? You do not extinguish it. You cannot. It is the very fire of life itself. You learn, finally, to sit in Pascal's quiet room,